What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and more Birthright domain coverage here as we start off looking at the domains of the Eastern Marches. So we decided to kind of do this a little out of order, and we're going to take a look at kind of one of the main antagonists of the Eastern Marches here. So not quite on the Gorgons level, of course, but certainly a present threat to deal with, and kind of sits at really an intersection of Annuir and some of the other territories as well. So the Chimaeron, chaotic evil, not for PCs. So there are actually provinces here. It's actually a fairly decently sized domain. And as we will get into in the description here, so the setup as far as laws, temples, guilds, etc. is rather complicated. So on the regent side, though it takes its name from the Chimera, this domain is ruled only by a loose council of town and village leaders, which meet once in a while in the nominal capital of Lysan, or Lysan. They all bow to the Chimera, said to have been a half-elf female wizard once. Lieutenants, basically, so the Council of Leaders employs constables and other aides, so just basically to more or less keep things running as is in the domain here overall. So the 7 provinces of the Chimaeron reflect the domain's very small population. Basically, the Chimera itself spends most of her time in Rourke. The rule action has no effect here. There's no luring people to the home of an abomination, right? Only basically those who have nowhere else to go would flee and be living in this domain. So that's more of a note for the DM, right? Because again, this isn't available for players, but something to know that basically, as a DM, you really aren't going to be increasing this domain's abilities here, really, or effectively ruling, because you can't. So, important NPCs here. Rumors claim that a temple to Nasiriye hides up in the high peaks in the mountains, as well as a temple to Kuraikin, but no one knows where those lone priests might maintain them, and certainly they'd be doing their best to not be noticed by the Chimera. Magical power permeates the Chimaeron, and mages called the Three Brothers have decided to attempt to control it. Unfortunately, they ignore the fact that dozens of mages have tried before them, and none have lived to boast of their magical prowess. So, still, the brothers continue to learn the sources of the land, and don't seem too frightened of the Chimera, who controls most of them. So there is some potential for conflict there, and again, something that you as the DM will have to, in some way, bring into the campaign if, again, you're running Birthright as, running the domains, or, in the case of adventuring, certainly something that maybe would be an initial hook to get players involved if they were adventuring in and around the Chimaeron. So they might, in fact, be contacted by the Three Brothers or something like that. That could be an interesting hook. But so certainly not everything is all one-sided there as far as the magic of the land is concerned. So that might at some point spill into some sort of conflict. The Iron Peaks run right through the Chimaeron and dominate the landscape. Some say Orogs live in these mountains, naturally, but most folk assume they've either died or moved away. But again, easy way to bring in an adventure hook there, and certainly something that the nearby dwarves of Baruch Ajik would also, of course, be dealing with. So the mountains of the Chimaeron seem less harsh than those of the Stone Crown chain, but still far too hard to cross without proper training or a guide. The passes are unreliable, as the snows close them off for a good part of the year. For armies, the mountains are practically impassable, and nearby Coronies and Baruch Ajik would not welcome troops marching through their lands to keep the passes open. Besides, it's in the best interest of both neighbors to make sure the mountain passes remain closed, basically so their isolation from the lands to the east allows them to basically to remain frontier kingdoms as they wish, instead of becoming the center of busy trade routes. Now, that being said, increasing trade is something that not just in general would be a good idea if you're running a domain, but both of those domains actually do want to cultivate their trade routes a little bit more and things like that, and certainly could stand to do so. So got to take that with kind of a little bit of a footnote there. That being said, the way that they control their trade routes is probably more important. Coronies more as a naval power, and then the dwarves, various other means that they have. But there's all kinds of nasty domains to the east, and so keeping that closed basically makes that part of the Chimaeron sort of very strategically important. So something that, again, could become a sort of focal point of a campaign is, whether eventually players decide to try and take on the Chimera and maybe get rid of it, or if you're running a domain, also again trying to maybe just conquer this territory and do what you have planned, and if that is indeed opening a land trade route that way, certainly might be profitable for you depending on which domain you're running, but again might earn the enmity of one or both of those other domains. Lastly here, though it's not properly a part of Annuir, wise rulers remember to beware of the Chimaeron. Not only does it house a vicious Anshe, it also serves as a refuge for scoundrels. So again, nominally a country, but not so much, right? So a rather lawless region by and large, but several small towns have sprung up among its provinces, each dispensing its own rough brand of justice. The worst criminals find themselves either fed to the Chimera or elected to some so that's pretty damn funny. So an interesting one, and certainly, basically imagine a very just lawless region with some pretty rough justice here. So, but you might find again the worst of the worst criminals here, but this could be something where maybe, as part of adventure hooks, maybe players are chasing someone who's fled from a nearby domain, and rumors have them maybe hiding up here in the Chimaeron, or it could be something where the players are maybe chasing some sort of bounty or something like that. But again, a big thing. I wish there was a little bit more description here provided, but there is supplemental material, of course, and we'll cover all the big bad monsters from their own Blood Enemies supplement at some point. But so the Chimera itself is certainly a monster that many people would welcome being sort of eliminated, so that presents all of its own adventure hooks as well. But this is definitely a fertile plot here, pun intended, kind of, that for the DM to work things here for the player. So it should be any number of possible adventure hooks if you're just role playing, but also on the ruling a domain side of the game. So there could be opportunity here, just depending on how players want to pursue that, as far as either taking over the area, ridding this part of Annuir of sort of this criminal territory, maybe cultivating it as an actual domain and maybe increasing trade. But again, there's going to be some difficulties there as well. So, they're depending on how the magic is going there. Again, the Chimera has to be gotten rid of. The three brothers mages would probably have their own interests and want certainly to maintain quite a bit of control on the sources. So could be valuable allies, but there's always other people wanting a hand in the pie. So definitely a fun one. But let us know your thoughts, guys. If you have adventured in and around the Chimaeron, have you ever faced the monster? Have you dealt with the three brothers mages? Or how have if you've run the domain version of Birthright, have you actually managed to take over the territory, and what were the consequences of that? So hit us up in the comments as always, guys. Love hearing from your stories and adventures, and we'll be back with more as we work our way through the Eastern Marches. Take care.